But let's jump into the next topic, and that's Jimmy Butler and the Houston Rockets. A new report coming out from Adrian Wojnarowski, and he comes out saying that the Rockets are offering 4 first-rounders in their renewed pursuit of Jimmy Butler. No other, inklings of what might be included in that deal. I think before the deal was something based around Eric Gordon and PJ Tucker, but now Woj coming out saying the Rockets are inclined to add 4 first-round picks, and how that would work out would be the 2019, 2021, 2003, and 2025 first-round picks that they'd be offering, because you can't offer back-to-back, and you can't offer more than 7 years in advance. So that would be the deal, would be at least those 4 picks, and then possibly more, because you got to make the salaries work. And the salaries that I've seen are at least either Eric Gordon and Nene, or Eric Gordon and PJ Tucker. And so far, Minnesota 2-4 on the season, and their losses have come to teams like the Bucks and the Raptors. Also, they lost to the Mavs by 4 and the Spurs, and then they beat the Cavs barely in Minnesota, and they also beat the Pacers 101-91. So far, what do you think about the Minnesota Timberwolves with Jimmy Butler? He also hasn't played every single game for them. And what do you think about this new pursuit of the Houston Rockets for Jimmy Butler? Does it speak more about the Minnesota Timberwolves, or does it speak more about the Houston Rockets? Ricky, I'll go to you first.
I think this speaks volumes about the Rockets. Like, the T-Wolves are kind of what we expected at this point. I know we're only 6 games in as of recording this, but we didn't see the T-Wolves in our projections and our predictions as a playoff team, and they're not in the playoffs. So, I mean, with them, it's exactly what I thought.
It's been 6 games, but yeah.
With the Rockets, though, we didn't. Did anyone expect them to be 1-4 out of the gate? I mean, I know they have the James Harden injury, that it's a grade 1 strain. He's going to be reevaluated next week. But I feel like this is Houston not fully hitting, but hey, we're going to hover closely over this panic button, because many people have said our window closed last year when we couldn't beat the Warriors. Now we got James Harden injured. And then on top of it, you got D'Antoni saying, well, our awful defense needs to be reworked. How do you rework that? You get Jimmy Butler.
I mean, you get Jimmy Butler, you stop playing Carmelo Anthony. Either or. His on and off numbers are hilarious. The team is, I think, at like a 105.3
the curse
with him
of Carmelo.
off, and like a 113 with him on. Like it's more than a 10-point jump, I feel.
But also, Carmelo Anthony last night against the Clippers was pretty fun to watch. He got blown out, but it was fun.
So here's the thing.
He had 24 points on like 6 threes.
They can score, and when he scores, it's good. But the problem is that like their defense with him out there is awful because of the way people switch, and you can't do that. And I think D'Antoni talked about that a little bit, about like, we're not going to switch. Like, you're going to run through screens at this point, because they're just getting absolutely abused defensively. So I'm not super surprised by the struggling start for the Rockets. I knew that them changing out pieces, especially pieces large as adding Carmelo Anthony, was going to take some time for adjustment. Like, the injury on top of that, no one could have seen that, so whatever. Like, James Harden out, that sucks. It really just does. But the rest of this, they're going to struggle a little bit. I'm not surprised too much. I think that they will find their pace after like a month of play, and then we'll see more or less of what this team will be by the time we hit like Christmas. Yeah,
their offensive rating with Carmelo Anthony like on the floor, it goes from 112 to 111 with him on the floor, and then their opponents with him on the court goes from 113 with him off the court to 124.
Oh, yikes.
So it's bad when he steps out on the floor. It's a 11 difference when he steps on. So it's notable when Carmelo Anthony steps out there. But also, you got to look at what they've... I mean, it's been a short season so far, and you look at the Houston Rockets. I mean, you lose Luka Mbute. You also lose Trevor Ariza, who were your 2 go-to guys to stop the other guys' best players.
Yep.
And they also lost their defensive coordinator off the bench in one of their assistant coaches. So you look at what they lost, it's not too shocking that this team, especially dealing with injuries, hasn't been playing up to expectations. And I think it does speak more about the Houston Rockets, especially giving up 4 first-round picks. But I don't think it speaks of how they've been playing so far this year. I just think it speaks more about their off-season. Because Daryl Morey, I feel like he would have made this offer no matter what, whether they were winning all 6 of their games or losing all 6 of their games, because I think he still wants to make sure that we can beat the Houston Rockets. We can beat the Golden State Warriors, and getting Jimmy Butler will help that no matter what, whether we're performing at our top peak or not. So I think this was going to be a move that was going to happen. They were just going to wait until they had to push after this, and I think now they feel like We got to make our best offer. This is now our chance.
And the only thing you could say, like, oh, if they were doing well, they would still offer to trade for Jimmy Butler because they were in trade talks from the beginning. But could this also be let's say it was flipped, and instead of being 1-4, they were 4-1. If they're 4-1, do you think they sit back and go, you know what? We're still going to be in talks, but we're not going to over pursue anything. I'm not going to throw the tub out with the bathwater here in order to kind of overreact to anything. Whereas this could be like, hey, we're 1-4. We need to make this now because, like Dave said, you couldn't know that this injury to James Harden was going to happen.
Right, like Chris Paul, we all know he's going to get injured.
Bottom line, though, is it happened. So now we have to react to it. This could also be a reaction to that of, all right, he's going to miss time because we're not going to get him reevaluated until next week. And then after he's reevaluated, let's say he has to miss more time. How many games are we going to lose without James Harden out there? Because we don't have him, it's just CP. Maybe Melo has to play more.
Yeah, I think it's mostly a set of circumstances. I don't think it's just the Rockets solely losing. I think that, like Sean said, Daryl Morey is going to make the moves to make this team competitive now. I think the future is not a concern, and that's why I don't question the 4 first-round picks. It sounds outrageous. Mm-hmm. We all know how it worked out for the Nets before, and obviously in that Boston trade. But I think this is just because they're seeing what's happening in the Timberwolves locker room, and they're like, look, you guys are struggling, we're struggling, let's help each other out. Like, let's get to the bottom of this. You guys get compensation for, having a top 15 player in the league, and we'll give you some pieces to work with in the meantime. And then we get back the guy that helps us go 4 deep against the Warriors. So that way we can defend, honestly, either KD or Steph and not have to, just absolutely cripple ourselves over Carmelo Anthony.
Here's the thing, is with this trade deal of, them offering 4 first-rounders in my mind, I think we are in an age where we overvalue first-round picks and just picks in general. Because everyone doesn't want to be the Brooklyn Nets and Billy King. They don't want to be the Herschel Walker trade where they give them the Dallas Cowboys a whole new franchise. Like, you can have that possibility. But also, those trades didn't work out for the Vikings because they didn't win. That didn't work out for the Brooklyn Nets because PG and KG Paul Pierce and KG were old.
35 and 37, I think, at the time or something.
If Jimmy Butler hits, which it's most likely he will unless he gets injured, which is a for sure possibility because he hasn't been 100% healthy throughout his career. If he hits, that means you won a championship. So those 4 first-round picks do not matter.
Who cares?
Your whole point is to bring a championship with James Harden, with Chris Paul, and with Jimmy Butler on your team. And if it happens and you beat the Golden State Warriors, you completed your mission. Daryl Morey did his job. That's all that matters. Yes, you might cripple the team in 7 years when it comes to 2025. And you could have had the number
7 years when you've got a ring?
That's my point. It can turn out poorly because you gave up 1 pick later on and you couldn't protect it. But I think that in the end, it doesn't matter if you hit your goal. It's kind of like with the Cubs and them getting Aroldis Chapman. Aroldis Chapman helped them get a World Series ring, but yes, they gave up one of the best young players in Gleyber Torres at shortstop and third base now. And talking to most Cubs fans, they really don't care because they got a ring. And I know, Houston's drought isn't 107 years.
I saw Torres play this year, and I'm like, man, he could have been on our team. But it wasn't like, oh my God, I wish he was back.
Would you rather have Gleyber or would you rather have a ring?
Well, the Cubs is a different situation with 100 years.
I know, but would you rather have Gleyber or would you
I'll
have
take
a ring?
the ring with the
Cubs.
Cubs.
And I think that Rockets fans would rather have a ring because we don't know what that pick could be. And also looking at Minnesota, it doesn't mean it's going to be good. I mean, look at the picks that they've had. I mean, they hit on, Kevin Love. They hit on Karl-Anthony Towns, kind of. Outside of that, who have they hit on?
Josh Okogie looking good this year.
Okay. Who else have they, for sure, players who have played more than 4 games in their career?
Yep.
Wiggins wasn't one of their picks. Also, Wiggins hasn't been good.
Tyus Jones?
Nah. I think he was still a first-round pick. He was 130, I think.
I know. I mean, that's the only one I can think of.
They haven't hit on much. They picked Ricky Rubio and Johnny Flynn over Steph Curry.
I say, how's Patton doing?
Yeah.
Yikes.
This isn't a team. They also got rid of Markkanen. They could have had Markkanen. They got rid of him. Levine wasn't doing well on that team. And, obviously it was
he was doing well. He
was injured.
He putting up 19 points a game efficiently.
But also they couldn't play defense.
Yeah, well, that wasn't their problem. But that was, as a team, that was their plan.
My point was
it's the same as Hoiberg. It's fuck the defense. Let's put the ball in the bucket.
Levine was never going to help them win.
The ball in the hole.
like you picked Levine because he had a ton of athleticism.
Yeah.
I just look at this and I think that if you get a ring, it doesn't matter. And also you're giving picks to a team that hasn't drafted well throughout their franchise history outside of like Kevin Garnett.
I think your argument is correct. You're just wording it wrong in my mind. Because it's not the fact of if you get a ring, nothing else matters. It's this Rocket. It's just this Rockets team. Like when you brought up, like you're comparing it to other sports. When you bring up the Cubs, that's a different circumstance. You go 100 years without a World Series win.
More than 100.
I think I'll take more than 100. I'll take that one rather than adding to that. With this Rockets team, it's the situation of what do you want this part of Rockets history to be? Do you want it to be known as the team that, yeah, we lost to the Warriors last year, but we added that special piece. We came back and we toppled the mighty Warriors finally, and we succeeded in our goal and won a title? Or do you want to be known as that team of, yeah, you know, we didn't add that piece. Chris Paul got injured. James Harden, we couldn't do it. And we kind of fizzled out with the Chris Paul, James Harden Rockets and could never get past the Warriors. This trade helps them get your title, but helps them get past the Warriors.
And the window's closing soon because once Chris Paul is, 2 years from now, Chris Paul is not probably going to be an elite NBA player. And right now, it's kind of questionable if he is an elite NBA player.
Right.
And, in 2 years, it's going to probably be for sure he's not going to be an elite NBA player. James Harden is going to be closing on his prime as well. Jimmy Butler is in his prime, but in 2 years, and even if you re-sign him next year, although it's a cap hell with Clint Capella's contract, James Harden's contract,
Watch
Chris
them
Paul's
care
contract.
about paying the luxury tax.
But still, Jimmy and Harden are same age.
Yeah,
at the same point.
But again, like you're still going to be paying those guys a ton of money when they're like 34.
And I mean, Harden's got the extension. Jimmy, you'd have to try to give him one.
So I just think that the window is now for the Rockets.
Absolutely.
So and in 7 years, the guys that you're talking about, Harden, Butler, Paul, are not going to be on this team. Might not even be in the league. So you just got to go after it because 2025 is a long ways from now.
Yeah.
And your team might suck, and you might have given up the number one pick in the 2025 draft. But we don't know who the number one pick in the 2025 draft is because it's 7 years from now, and that kid is, 11?
Yep.
So I think I'm fine giving up
When's
that
the next
pick.
LeBron James kid?
2020, I think.
Yeah.
Whenever LeBron's 37, so I think 3 years.
Yeah, well, that's the first one. So when's the next? I mean, you got a couple.
But Bronny's, I think, the one.
Bronny does seem to be the one.
I don't think the other kids have too much.
We'll see.
We're talking about his daughter. I think his daughter is going to be like 18 when it comes to 2025. Is she going to be eligible for the NBA draft?
She could be.
I don't think that it really matters when it comes to draft picks because you could become a Billy King, you could become a Herschel Walker, and I don't know a lot of trades where you give up 4 first-round picks and it ends up turning out right. But if Daryl Morey wants to hit his goal of succeeding about beating the Golden State Warriors and bringing a title to Houston, this is probably your best chance. So giving up 4 first-round picks isn't too crazy in my mind. So I think the Rockets shouldn't be too hesitant about giving up those first 4-round picks. It's really just about the other pieces they'd be giving up, like Eric Gordon, PJ Tucker, and 4 firsts. That's a lot.
Yeah,
well, it's like
that's crazy.
You're adding 2 guys that can help you for 1. Yes, Jimmy Butler is very good, but is he going to, by adding that 1 player, is it going to be that much better than having Aaron Gordon and PJ Tucker? Because both of those guys, Eric Gordon, because both of those guys do play a big role on this team, even if it's on the second unit or with PJ. His defense in the playoffs is what came up big.
I think it'll be 4 picks, one of those guys, and a cat filler of somebody else. I don't think they're giving up both of them in this deal. But no, I mean, they were close enough to taste that championship round last year. Like, they were literally like
probably should have been in the finals.
Moments away. So I think this is the we go all in and try to beat out the greatest team ever assembled. Like, if there's any team in the league I'm marking down that has a chance against the Warriors, it would have to be a Rockets team that adds Jimmy Butler and retains Eric Gordon or PJ Tucker. Because I look at one side, I'm like, okay, well, the Warriors have 5 All-Stars. I look at the Rockets, I go, if they add Jimmy Butler, they could have 5 All-Stars. It's just, you have to match firepower with firepower. And while it's not the same pieces and they're at different points in their career, I still believe that the coaching of Mike D'Antoni could help them. I think that if they find their stride offensively and defensively, this is a team that would have enough pieces to realistically challenge that Warriors team because we haven't seen the best out of the Warriors yet. Clay can't shoot right now, and they don't have Boogie on the floor. So right now, Warriors, I am terrified of what that team can do when they're healthy, because what they're doing when they're not is disgusting. So I think that this is a, like, holy shit, how good are the Warriors? We need to get Jim in here. We need to bring our guys together and give them enough time to gel, because if they don't, and this happens at the trade deadline, then we're trying to scramble to redefine our offense and defense in the last month and a half of the year while we go into the playoffs. Like that's a less than ideal situation.
Well, and that's exactly what this is we talk about the greatness of the Warriors all the time. This team is so great that the team that almost knocked them off in the playoffs last year has to come up with I'm going to call it ridiculous deal of, we're going to send 4 firsts for a team to get a player just so that we can knock them off. And also, Jimmy will help them also, because Jimmy can hit some mid-range shots.
Here's a trade idea that I got for you guys.
Yeah.
Eric Gordon goes to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Costa Kufos goes to the Minnesota Timberwolves, along with 3 unprotected first-round picks from the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets get some guy named Jimmy Butler, and the Sacramento Kings get Gorgie Jiang and Nene, and one of the first unprotected picks for the Sacramento Kings.
Are the T-Wolves going to want 3? Would the T-Wolves want that over the 4? That's the like, now that the 4 has been on the table, like, that, if I'm the T-Wolves, I'd take 4.
But here's the thing with the
picks.
T-Wolves is you're getting rid of Diang's contract, which is 15.2 for the next 3 years.
I guess.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why the Kings are brought in here.
Comes down to
what do the Timberwolves
what's more
do
important.
at this point, though, because as a team, they're just struggling left and right.
Well,
like,
I feel
Cat
like
had
if you're
his best game in a blowout, and I mean, like, that was a non-competitive game. That was just a spanking through and through. Nobody else could score that game. That was so good for him for being able to step up the one game. But outside of that game, he's looked awful, and I mean god awful. Like, regression to an extent that, like, is Markel Fultzian. Like, it's bad. So I'm going as a team going. You have Wiggins and Cat under contract long term. Now, are you going to tell me you're going to, like, I could see why they don't care about the picks as much, because it's like they need to deal those picks to get guys in, because they want to compete. And if you're not going to compete when you have guys on max contracts, what are you doing?
Here's a question that I'm going to ask, and I know, got to get in contact with Pat, because I know he wants to come on to talk about this in the future. If you're going to trade and get those first 4-round picks, does that mean you're getting rid of Thibodeau, right? Because if I'm getting those
Thibodeau makes through the year.
If I'm getting those first round picks, I know that a lot of them are going to be so down the line that Thibodeau wouldn't be there anyways. But even if, like, the next one is next year, I wouldn't want Tom Thibodeau touching any of those picks. I would want a new regime in here drafting players.
I think he's going after this year. I still don't understand how he had a job, because apparently Glenn Taylor, I don't think, cares too much about this Jimmy Butler thing, because the whole thing is you need to be traded for the season. Now we're 2 weeks into the season, so I don't think that really makes sense. I don't think Thibodeau is really in the conversation right now. Unfortunately, is for Timberwolves fans, because he does have both the position of head coach and president of basketball operations, but I don't think that he's going to be a factor this year. And my biggest concern with the Timberwolves isn't really, again, like, Thibodeau. It's just the players that they have and the future they're building around, because you gave a ton of money to Wiggins, to Karl-Anthony Towns. And like you mentioned, Dave, his best game, Karl-Anthony Towns, came in a complete blowout. Yeah. And you look at the other games where Jimmy Butler's playing, and he's crumbled. I mean, JaVale McGee's having a better season than Karl-Anthony Towns right now, and it's not even close. Like, Karl-Anthony Towns out there,
hey, man, JaVale McGee's kind of a monster right now, so let's not...
And Karl-Anthony Towns looks scared. Yeah. He looks like a scaredy cat.
He has no confidence. He fouled out of the game.
I get it.
But, like,
he's bad on defense. He doesn't have a shot. He's not getting shots.
He just has no confidence anymore.
And I think it's because of Jimmy Butler. And that honestly could be a thing where he never gets it back. And Andrew Wiggins is phenomenal when he has the ball by himself and no one else is around him, and he can score. I think he'd be a
beast at one-on-one. Yeah.
He's incredibly talented, but he can't play defense at all. Like, the opponent's offensive rating jumps up like 11 points. Again, similar to Carmelo Anthony. He's like young Carmelo Anthony. Like,
but with less of a shot.
Yeah.
He's better taking it to the hole.
And more speed.
Yeah.
But, like, Wiggins is not looking good at all defensively still, and Karl-Anthony Towns is looking bad. And you invested over, I think, $300 million into those two players.
Yep.
So I just don't see where this Minnesota Timberwolves team can go. And if you get those picks, I think that can help you at least clear out a little bit of a direction, because even if you don't use those picks, like 4 players, you can still use them to unload contract, or you can use it to get players that you do want. Because if you do want to be competitive, you can take one of those unprotected first-round picks and go get a guy that's going to help your team. You can go get a center that, hell, Derek Favors. I'm just going to throw him out there because I think he would be a really nice fit next to Karl-Anthony Towns because he can, play inside. Cat can be moved to the 4, and he can,
I mean,
do
they don't need
things
to
that Cat
spend a
does.
pick to get Tibbs' ideal center. Joakim Noah's out there and waiting.
Stop it. Or you can
But if you were the Timberwolves right now, and that trade, say you accepted it, it's 4 firsts and either PJ or Eric, one or the other. Like, what's your direction? Do you go for? Am I trying to win now? Am I trying to win in 2 years, in 4 years? Like,
if you're
what are you doing?
Eric and PJ, it's got to be competitive now.
Yeah,
they're not going to win now, and they're not going to win in 3 years. They're not going to win in 2 years. I think. Again, Tibbs' idea is I need to save my job, so that means I need to win. I need to get back to the playoffs.
Right.
So that's the mindset, I think, right now of this front office.
Are you worried?
The mindset should be...
Yeah, continue.
The mindset should be, in my mind, weirdly enough, is we got to rebuild again. Because Jimmy Butler, the trade didn't work out. And we got rid of Zach LaVine, we got rid of Lauri Markkanen, we got rid of Chris Dunn. The trade didn't work out, and I think we pushed too hard to get Jimmy Butler. And it was kind of a mistake to go and get him, although we did make the playoffs for the first time in 14 years. I think it was a mistake to go out and get Jimmy Butler because now he's kind of handcuffing our team, and the guys that we did have around him, he kind of trashed their confidence. He trashed Wiggins' his confidence, and he trashed Karl-Anthony Towns' confidence. And maybe that was just a wake-up call that was needed, and maybe these guys wouldn't have been so great. But looking back on this Butler trade, you take out that playoff appearance, this really hasn't been helpful to the Minnesota Timberwolves because you lost Zach LaVine, who now looks like a guy who you guys think can be over a 22.5 point per game scorer. Chris Dunn, who hasn't been healthy, but when he's out there has shown some flashes of being a good two-way point guard.
Yep.
And you have the possibility of having a Markkanen out there who was one of the best rookies last year. So I think you need to, in a weird way, rebuild. And that's going to be tough when you have 2 superstars already with 5-year deals over $147 million. But this team doesn't have a direction outside of those 2 players because Derrick Rose is your best player so far. Jeff Teague has been pretty decent. But those guys are older, and you can't trust their bodies. And outside of that, I don't know who else is young on this team that I think is going to be growing and being on the team. Josh Okogie. Outside of Josh Okogie, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Andrew Wiggins, I don't know who else is going to be on this team in the next 5 years.
Well, and that's the thing. I'm going to bring the Warriors back into this, but on the T-Wolves side now.
Okay.
We always bring up the Warriors as, and we say the pun of the gold standard because they drafted like Klay Thompson.
Ever said the gold standard about the Gold State
Warriors. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, everyone except for Durant. They were drafting most of their core players.
Jordan Bell. AKA cash considerations.
Cash considerations that they got Jordan Bell for. And they're drafting these guys, built them up into this team. My thing for Tom Thibodeau moving forward and for the T-Wolves moving forward is if you're going to rebuild, Tom Thibodeau's not the guy you want because he's not the guy. The reason why Chris Dunn never got the opportunity to flourish in Minnesota was because Tom Thibodeau doesn't like playing rookies. Why Lauri Markkanen wouldn't have worked in Minnesota, he would never got playing time with Tom Thibodeau. He might have gotten a little bit, but he wouldn't have flourished like he did in Chicago because Tom Thibodeau is notorious for hating rookies.
So I agree with you on Thibodeau hates rookies. That's a known thing, and that's why he dragged in Luol Deng Steadass. Like, I get it. I think that the point we're coming to is the move seems best for both teams. Jimmy needs out, and the Timberwolves need a clean start to figure out what they're doing with this franchise. And I agree. Tibbs needs to go. My only fear is that he does something incredibly stupid before he does. Not like Stan Van levels of like, I'm going to try to last ditch and do the Tobias Harris for Blake Griffin, which seems honestly, to actually kind of
like it.
So far so good
for
this
both
year.
Teams.
Yeah, that worked out well. So I'm afraid that Jimmy Butler is going to be like the wrong version of that. That's I can see Thibodeau doing like something that does not set the franchise ready to move forward. And I'm wondering if we see Cat or Wiggins moved off because I don't think both those max guys are on this team's future plan. Like when we talk about them competing next, I think one of them's gone. And I think one of them's going to get moved for someone who is young and who is a fit. But they need a coach. Like I look at the Bucks and I go, wow, look what a coach is doing with that team. Like we joked about that team being awful with Jason Kidd because like they're absolute swarming defense was just terrible. They didn't have an offensive scheme. They talk to guys. You read the interviews from Bledsoe and Giannis and Chris Midd about the change of culture, the change of play style, and how much we see that already to start this year. Clean sweep Butler, get your pieces, and then find your new coach, and then you just go. Just go fresh.
I'm going to go on a different side of that. Not trading Cat or Wiggins, but because
that's the one thing is I don't know how you trade Wiggins. So
the Tom Thibodeau thing for me of that would be, you know what? This deal for the Rockets is good, but picks don't do me much good. Oh, there's a deal here from the Heat. How do I get to the playoffs if I give Jimmy Butler to a Western Conference team? I'm going to take a lesser package that will be less than four first-round picks and send him to the Heat rather than the Rockets.
But you get some assets that might play now.
Yes, exactly. Okay. And then it's this does nothing for our future. Well, duh, because Tom Thibodeau's not thinking about
Josh
that.
Richardson, Kelly Olynyk, and a couple of firsts was a rumored package out there. Yeah.
I mean, not 4 firsts for Jimmy.
Here is the final trade offer that I will throw out there. Because I think that he's going to get moved before the deadline, which is way too far away. He should be moved before then.
Absolutely.
But I think Tibbs has this weird thing that he wants to prove that he's right about Jimmy Butler. But he's got to move him before February 7th. And if he doesn't, he needs to be fired immediately. On February 8th, he needs to be handed his paper if he doesn't trade Jimmy Butler. But here's the last one I'll throw out there, because I think the Rockets have an intriguing package out there. I think the Heat one that you just threw out there, and apparently they've reopened trade talks as well, I think that one's an interesting one. 2 first-rounders go to Minnesota. Mason Plumlee goes to Minnesota.
Oh, God.
And Michael Porter Jr. goes to Minnesota. Denver Nuggets get Jimmy Butler. Thoughts?
You really...
Thoughts?
Are we just going to get you a Nuggets jersey?
Just thoughts.
Because
I'm just saying thoughts.
He's turning into a huge Denver Nugget
It works. No, I'm just saying it works.
No,
the trade is successful.
It's not going to happen.
I like it a lot.
You put him at the 3.
I like it a lot.
Because now you got Will Barton's injury, and you can put him on the bench.
Are you saying put him at the 3 or put the Nuggets as the third seed?
But they're probably the second seed if they get Jimmy Butler. No, but
that's incredible.
You have Jamal Murray at the 1, Gary Harris at the 2, Jimmy Butler at the 3, Paul Millsap at the 4, Nikola Jokic at the 5, coming off the bench, Will the Throw Barton.
Yeah.
You have Trey Lyles. You have Torrey Craig. You have Juancho, Hernan Gomez.
And eventually you'll have IT.
IT as well. Book it. Come on. Come on.
Okay, Sean. Actually, that's disgusting.
And I think it's a pretty good trade for Minnesota.
You get a center for Plumlee. Well with, and then you get the future hope of Michael Porter Jr. Well, if he's healthy, hey, you get another scorer who has no defense.
If not, you get 2 and if not, you get 2 firsts.
Yeah.
And that way you can protect them, the Nuggets, where or you can maneuver them where you can actually give Minnesota bad picks if it ever comes out into that, because if you give them unprotected first for 2019 or 2020 and 2022,
that's
when they have their
core lock,
their ones,
so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I think it would be the 2021
I think he
picks
might have
because they traded the 2019 pick.
God, Michael Porter Jr.'s value right now is such a question mark to me. It's a straight mystery because
he's taking it day by day, according to a Slam interview on October 12th.
Day by day, it's not good enough.
He's been pain-free.
I need to see him in 5-on-5 practices.
You won't.
I know, but that's what I need to see. I want to pull the trigger, Sean. I love the deal. I think they might have to add another first to get it done because of the unknown value of Michael Porter Jr. But I love the deal. I love what it does for the Nuggets.
I just don't think it happens. Do
you think any deal's going to happen anytime soon? In the next 2 months?
I could see the Rockets one going. The Rockets or Heat.
2019, where's Jimmy Butler?
2019? I don't know. Depends on free agency.
No, 2019.
No, in 2 months.
January 1st, 2019.
I'm going to say Miami. I don't think he gets traded to Houston.
I think Houston's going to do something jaw-dropping.
I don't think he gets traded.
You think he's going to stay?
On January 1st, 2019? No, I think he's still fucking Timberwolves.
Think he's a trade deadline guy?
I think.
Is that a trick question?
I'm not sure.
Is that a trick question?
What do you mean?
Because the trade deadline isn't until a few months after 2019?
It's pretty much, do you think he's going to be traded in the next 2 months?
Oh, okay. I'm going to say by the trade deadline, he's now Miami Heat.
Right now, trade talks. It seemed like trade talks were dead for the last week.
Yeah.
Now they're picking back up. So now from October 27th to Monday, December 31st, do you think he's going to be on the Timberwolves? That's pretty much the question.
I'll say Miami.
How long does Cat and Wiggins struggle? Like, if they keep going on this pace, you gotta get rid of them.
It'd be 37 games.
You can't do 37 games of Cat averaging
30
single-digit points and rebounds.
31 more games. Because right now they played 6. So that'd be game 37. They play game 37 on Monday, 31st, at New Orleans. And then they play Wednesday, January 2nd, at Boston. I think he's still I think he's playing, suiting up for the Timberwolves on Wednesday, January 2nd, 2019, for the Minnesota Timberwolves against the Boston Celtics. Jimmy Butler, that is. He's not going to be a Denver Nugget, unfortunately.
I think they're going to have 8 wins by that point.
No, come on. They're not going to be that bad.
It's the West, and they only play the Suns and the Kings so many times.
I mean, they beat the Pacers by 10, which is pretty shocking. They almost beat the Spurs by 4. I mean, when Jimmy Butler's out there, they haven't been bad because Jimmy Butler's a good player.
All right.
And Wiggins is still scoring 20 a game. I think they'll probably lose to Los Angeles, Utah, Golden State, Portland. They could beat the Clippers. They could probably beat the Lakers one of those 2 games. They can beat Sacramento. They can beat Brooklyn. They can beat Portland, Memphis,
Point proven. I'm trying to be
Chicago,
a drama person.
Cleveland. I mean, they're going to have 8 wins by Monday, November 26th at least. So
a month from now, they're going to have 8 wins.
Yeah, I mean, you said they weren't even going to have 8 wins by January 2019.
I said January 1st, yeah.
So, I don't know. I think they'll have more than 8 wins by then.
You're probably right.
The last thing I'm going to say, and this goes for if he's traded to the Rockets, because I thought it was a good point. I think it was either Israel Gutierrez or Frank Isola said on Highly Questionable. One of them, I think it was Gutierrez, said that it's a good thing for Butler because he's not going to be... The thing in Minnesota is, I'm outworking these 2 kids. You're not going to outwork Chris Paul. Chris Paul's going to outwork you, so you're not going to get upset like he is in Minnesota.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair one. And maybe not outwork him, but at least he'll have a guy who's
out-practice
next to him
and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think Jimmy Butler's a crazy level of competitive, so he might still be outworking Chris Paul, but he won't feel the same way that, he's feeling in Minnesota. And
how engaged is Chris Paul going to be versus Cat and Wiggins? I mean, that's night and day.
So those are our thoughts on the Jimmy Butler fiasco that's still ongoing. I just want him to be traded. This isn't as bad as the Kawhi thing, but because it's kind of more funnier than the Kawhi thing. The Kawhi thing was a little more infuriating. This is a little more fun. But let us know where you think Jimmy Butler's going to end up. I think that Denver has the pieces. I don't think they would accept that 2 picks, Mason Plumlee and Michael Porter Jr., because Michael Porter Jr. is such an unknown. But it's fun to think about.
It is.
So, I mean, he's a 76 overall on 2K19.
But it doesn't fit the...
They don't need a fit right now. It's the Minnesota Timberwolves. Just try to play defense. Also, he's not going to play this year, which is fine because Thibodeau doesn't play rookies. So it's totally fine. It actually works out. It's a great fit. It's a fantastic fit. It's the best fit you can think of for a rookie in Tom Thibodeau. Michael Porter Jr. to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Book it.